Hello guys, NautoAisDx here. This is going to be a response to Miles923 on one of his video, basically history of fighting game. I think that's the title. Basically, he talks about a particular game and its backstory, its history. And one of the game that he did was a game that I actually enjoyed, but there was sort of a bit of a controversy, and fans of both sides for this game, they weren't too happy. Yes, I said both sides because this game is a crossover, and that is Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe. Yeah, this is the game that a lot of fans, whether you're a DC fan or a Mortal Kombat fan, they really weren't really happy about this. And even again, I remember talking about, I sent a letter to the Backlog Battle about crossover, and they mentioned this game. And there was a little skit that they did, and Alex basically kind of showed his reaction when he heard Mortal Kombat versus DC. And because the thing is, it's not one of the greatest Mortal Kombat game, and I'll kind of explain why, but I want to also give my opinion about it. So the gist of there is, what do I think about the game? Well, I think it's fun. Do I think it's one of the better Mortal Kombat game? Not really. I can understand where it's coming from, but it's not as bad as a lot of people said. It wasn't quote unquote bastardized that some of the fans were saying. Oh, you're not supposed to do this. Oh, you can't do that to this and that, X and Y, Z. So anyway, before I give my opinion about it, I want to basically give a little back history of what Mortal Kombat versus DC is. So a lot of people have said, like Mal did say, is the the eighth game of the Mortal Kombat series. Yes, the eighth one. If you wonder like what 5, 6, and 7, that's Deception, or the Mortal Kombat Deadline is 5, Deception is 6, and Armageddon is 7. This one they kind of dubbed it Mortal Kombat 8. So the first thing I might say, is this sort of canon to the lore of Mortal Kombat? And the answer really, Ed Boon even said it that no, it's not. It's sort of, think of it as it's a side story, an alternate timeline where the events after Mortal Kombat 5, I could say maybe even before that, maybe even 4 or 3, whatever. But it's before Raiden became evil. That's why it doesn't look like evil there, or Dark Raiden as we call it. And this timeline, somehow there was a sort of a time anomaly, and the world of DC was merging with the world of Mortal Kombat. That's basically timeline. Ed Boon basically said it. The story-wise, or the premise, yeah, it's kind of a little shoddy, but what can you do? Like, how do you do a crossover game? Basically, Miles explained it, which is what it is. There was basically two major battles happening. Superman versus Darkseid at the same time, Raiden versus Shao Kahn, and then the fight somehow made a big impact, somehow created a portal, and then Darkseid and Shao Kahn somehow merged to become a not really cool unoriginal boss. It's like, I'm sorry to say, sort of unoriginal, it's not even creative in my opinion, called Dark Khan, which is just, I don't know, it's like a rock, that's all I can say. But that's the premise of Mortal Kombat versus DC. It's not part of the actual Mortal Kombat timeline, rather than a alternate timeline, a la Dragon Ball GT. So then some of the problem with the game here, how about the gameplay? Well, it wasn't that bad. It is sort of Mortal Kombat. Sort of the 3D Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I'm going to explain what happened, why sort of the gameplay changed. It's sort of a 2D/3D architect. It's weird, like I said. It plays like a 2D game. You do have combos, but you don't do string combos like in the previous Mortal Kombat 5, 6, and 7. But at the same time, you're able to do sort of sidestep by walking forward in the background, or going backward or forward to the screen, or sidestepping. Again, it's kind of confusing. Like, is it a 2D game or is it a 3D game? What's going on? Because the mechanic in that one sort of was based on the 3D Mortal Kombat game. But the combo-wise, there's no string combo like the Mortal Kombat 3D game. Alright, so before I continue, a little backstory of what am I saying? Why is this Mortal Kombat 3D game? Alright, so technically, if you know Mortal Kombat 1 to 3, including Ultimate and Trilogy, but that's also Mortal Kombat 3, they're 2D. I mean, the way it looks, I know they're using real people, but it's 2D. Mortal Kombat 4 may be 3D, but it's actually a 2D plane, believe it or not. I don't think there's no sidestep. Okay, then after that, if you know the history of fighting game for a while, Street Fighter basically got in the back burner after Street Fighter 3. Some people got tired of Street Fighter because they weren't really that good. Street Fighter 3, like I said, not really good. I mean, it's an okay game, but not a lot of fan favorite. It was a time when a lot of the 2D fighting game was basically declining. And at a time what's becoming popular were the 3D fighting game. Tekken, Virtual Fighter, Soul Calibur. So what happened was, starting with Mortal Kombat 5, Deadly Alliance, all the way to Mortal Kombat 7, Armageddon, is they decided to follow the 3D fighting engine, the fighting style. So they said, okay, well, we'll do that with the 3 Mortal Kombat. That's why they call it the 3D trilogy, 5, 6, and 7. It plays way different than the original one. It does have the combo from Mortal Kombat 3. And then each of the character has like 3 fighting style. 2 if you play Armageddon. So, and then one of the things a lot of the characters can do is fighting style transition. You do a combo, push the transition button the right time, you can play, then you can continue the combo but a different fighting style. It kind of get convoluted. I kind of hard because let's just say that even though I enjoy it, I always have to constantly going back to the command list just to say, oh, how do I do this combo? How do I do that combo? So again, for what it is, it's okay, but doesn't really feel like a Mortal Kombat game. It's more of 3D fighting game with Mortal Kombat elements, signature, let's just say that. And the story wasn't really that good. They put a lot of new characters, but they have really no connection to the Mortal Kombat. And then, of course, 7 came, which is supposed to be Armageddon, which is basically sort of a fan service. They put every single Mortal Kombat character in the game. They kind of did that with Trilogy, but they also did it with Mortal Kombat Armageddon. The fighting style, basically, they have now 2 rather than 3. Again, the game is okay, but the storyline, again, is a little not really that good to some extent. It was okay for what it is. And the gameplay, again, it is a 3D Mortal Kombat. Not so much. It doesn't feel like an actual Mortal Kombat. It doesn't feel like Mortal Kombat 3. So that's why the reason why Mortal Kombat 9, they had to do a reboot, because the story was just getting convoluted. The gameplay, people didn't really like. So they said, is it the end of Mortal Kombat? So that's why they went back. But prior to that, they did Mortal Kombat vs. DC, a new Mortal Kombat for the HD platform, PS3 360, and unfortunately wasn't that good. So why is it so much wasn't that good? Well, one is, even so it does play like 2D, it still has some sort of 3D aspect that it didn't really need, that you can go sidestep to some extent. Second, combos are okay in the game, but there is thing I heard you can do string combos if you do it right, if you time it right, but very hard. I mean, Maximilian basically explained it, couldn't even do it. Story-wise, again, just kind of so-so. Two-world merging, evil, and it's about rage. The reason why, like, a lot of the characters can compete with Superman because of rage. And of course, remember, Superman also is weak against magic, so a lot of those characters are magical fighters, believe it or not. You know, Radiant's a god, Superman is Superman. And the problem was, not a lot of the characters also. They were gonna do DLC, but unfortunately, this is a time when Midway was actually going out of business. And of course, this is before Warner Brothers game bought Midway. That's basically what happened. Like, they bought most of the Intellect property, and including Mortal Kombat, and that's why there's a Midway Classic Arcade, which is published by Warner Brothers. There you go. And again, so the mechanic wasn't really that good, like Miles basically said. Unfortunately, I enjoyed it, but again, it's like, and another thing about this game, it doesn't really have a lot of content. It was only arcade mode, story mode, online, and combo challenge. And the problem with the combo challenge is, it's like I said, it's not that easy. Even Max basically said it. Some of the martial arts, like you try to do transition from one move to another, how do you do it? And there is a trick to it to basically explain it, which is there's a signal, there's like a, you'll see like a really fast, like a blinking star. When that appears, that's when you basically do the next move. But again, not that easy. I know it's not like a fighting style transition, but it's still not that easy. Again, not a lot of modes. It's either arcade mode, story mode. Beat story mode, you unlock 2 characters. It depends which side, Shao Kahn and Dark Side. And then, of course, you get online. So, okay, maybe it's not that bad. You know, the fighting system more basic than the 3D trilogy. I like the characters. So, why is the people still complaining? Well, in the Mortal Kombat side, the reason is the game is rated T. So, of course, you gotta dump down a lot of the fatalities. And what's Mortal Kombat known for? Gory fatality. Whether it's a 2D or in 3D, fatalities is the big thing for Mortal Kombat. You take that away, or you dump it down, your Mortal Kombat fans not gonna like it. So, of course, the fatality, they're not that bad in my opinion, but a lot of people just say, well, where's the blood, where's the gore, where's the decapitation, this is so lame. Like, well, to each of their own, but the thing is, they didn't like that. The fatalities were dumbed down. And then on the DC side, a lot of the DC said, well, this doesn't really fit because superhero don't kill. Yes. And the thing I like about DC superhero, and they had this policy, I know they're trying to break away from it, kind of disappointing, but in the past, there has been a policy rule for DC is that no superhero killer, that's what they call it. Basically, that if you're a superhero, like you're the Justice League or whatever, you don't kill. No matter what. If the bad guy is really super bad, that they deserve to be killed, they don't kill. So they kind of had to do that with Mortal Kombat versus DC. I love the DC superhero there. Let's just say Justice League. The thing they do is heroic brutality. Again, kind of, some are good, some are bad. Again, it's just each of their own. Kind of like Superman basically pound the guy to the ground. Well, kind of makes sense. Batman summoning his bats to make the guy unconscious because remember, Batman doesn't kill, and you get the idea. The DC villains, yeah, they sort of kill, but again, it is a T-rated, so they had to dumb down the fatality. Even Joker, they dubbed it down to a point that they had to censor it because according to Ed Boon, they couldn't really pass the ESRB. They said, yeah, that's M-rated, so they had to modify it. Kind of unfortunate, but again, when the ESRB comes in, you know, you don't mess with them. So that's one of the bigger problem is the fatalities. It didn't really fit. Mortal Kombat fans said, well, kind of dumbed down, it's kind of lame. DC said, well, that just doesn't look right, them doing fatalities. Again, going back to a bit of mechanic, again, like I said, it is sort of a dumbed down version. It's like, it's between the 3D and the 2D, because, again, they're still in the 3D. Remember, this is before Street Fighter 4 came back, so you gotta keep that in mind. And then the mini games, kind of stupid, close combat and free fall combat, really kind of unnecessary in my opinion. Too bad you couldn't really remove it. Again, that's like the aspect from Injustice. Again, it makes sense in Injustice, but in Mortal Kombat, like, no, just no. So, yeah, that's the reason why a lot of people don't like it. So, what do I think about it? Well, like I said, the fatality, I can understand why it's sort of lame. It is T-rated. Could they do better? Yeah. Even with T-rating, I think it's possible. The heroic brutality, I think I don't mind because, again, superhero don't kill. So, but the gameplay, again, the story, yeah, it's average. It's just your cliche, your cop-out, whatever you call it. It's just your usual, oh, it's two worlds, you're merging. Now you have a merged bad guy, Darkon. I mean, heck, Marvel Infinite versus Infinite, Ultron Sigma. Really? I mean, can you at least have an original bad guy? But whatever. They think that's always cool. I don't know. So gameplay again, it's okay, but some of the things that I don't like I said, close combat, free fall combat, I think it's ridiculous. Fatalities kinda bum me out because one of the best things is Mortal Kombat 5, Deadly Alliance. You can do the fatality anywhere. I know 6 and 7 they kinda brought it back well, no, not 7. 7 is great fatality. That's ridiculous. And 6, that's when they brought back you have to you got a position where you need to do the fatality. Kind of did that with Mortal Kombat 7 or 8 or DC versus Mortal Kombat versus DC. Don't really like that, but it is what Mortal Kombat is. So again, the game, in my opinion, is not bad. Is it good? Not even. It's not one of the best ones. Heck, it's not even one of the top Mortal Kombat game in my opinion. It is somewhere in the middle all the way to the bottom. It is just an average Mortal Kombat. It is not really bad. It's not a blasphemous Mortal Kombat game. It's not like, oh my god, this is garbage. Yes, it is sort of bad. Yes, it's trying to cater to audience and it didn't really work. That's why Ed Boon basically said it multiple times that he's trying to avoid doing DC Mortal Kombat crossover because he knows that not a lot of people are going to like it. Would I want to see them do a second one or a reboot? Yeah, sure. Because now they learned from Mortal Kombat game engine and Injustice. Find to make sure there. Or maybe, I know it's going to be stupid, but like I said, why not call it Mortal Kombat vs. DC? I always do this just like a troll. Why not Midway All-Star versus the Justice League? And then a Mortal Kombat character, basically, they have a specialty, like they can do, well, there's one of the supers going to be finish them to some extent. Whatever, like they have a super. I mean, that's what Injustice is. I don't know, but I know for a fact that Ed Boon have stated that doing another crossover, Mortal Kombat versus DC, or like I said, Midway versus Justice League, it's very, very slim. They're probably not even thinking about it because if they do, people are gonna whine. They did already whine when it was announced. Mortal Kombat is like, oh my god, this is gonna be ruined, and there you go. They were right, sadly. So that's what he kind of avoid doing the crossover. They knew people not gonna like it. They're just keeping it separate. Mortal Kombat should be a gory, M-rated game with fatalities. That's gory fatalities. And the Justice League is an over-the-top fighting game with basically over-the-top super move. So it's two different styles. Trying to combine that, I guess they're not probably going to be good at it, and people are going to complain again, like, oh my god, this is like Mortal Kombat versus DC. Again, who knows? Yeah. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Mortal Kombat versus DC. That's my response to Miles923. I agree with what he said. It is just an average game. A lot of the mechanics it wasn't really working. Story-wise, yeah, it's what it is. It's a merge of two worlds. You can say that. So yeah, would I recommend this game? Probably not, because again, if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, you probably just best play Mortal Kombat 9 and 10. And if you want a fighting DC game, there is some in the classic, the Super Nintendo emulator, wink wink. Or play Injustice. Injustice 1 is $20. And then if you really were interested, then you can play the sequel. So with that, thanks for listening.